There are two infinitely dark and destructive possible selves that live inside you and me and everyone else, just waiting to take hold. This short video is on how to escape the grasp of the shadow versions of the Mage archetype, the Miser and the Dark Adept. My name's Hazel Gale. I'm a former therapist turned author and creator of the fantasy mental health game Betwixt, which is where you can find all of my best and most creative tools for developing self-awareness and self-compassion. And this series of videos is devoted to the, in my opinion, fascinating world of archetypal character arcs. These are the archetypal journeys taken by characters so familiar to us from myth and tradition and religious teachings and every other type of story, that they live within us as shared aspects of the personality. They are capable of influencing every part of our world, from our self-image through to our life choices, our beliefs about what we can and cannot do, what we do and do not deserve, etc. In this series of videos, I'm exploring the 6 archetypal story arcs that map onto the archetypal human life. But as you can see, I've given them gender-neutral names because I am keen to make these journeys accessible to all because they are so powerful and transformative. As taught by Carl Jung, all of these archetypes, both the positive and the shadow, reside in the collective unconscious, and therefore in our individual psyches too. And while they have the potential to function as healthy, empowering guides, should we reject, deny, or otherwise repress an archetype, we open the door for that archetype to, in Jung's words, possess us, to control our thoughts and feelings and views of the world, but not in its healthy and empowering form. When fighting its way out from the unconscious, the version of the archetype we'll get will be one of the shadows. Therefore, in order to stop this from happening, we must quite simply build awareness of these archetypes and their challenges. In doing this, we will shine the light of conscious awareness into the shadowy depths of the unconscious and awaken the wise and positive guides within. So that's what this series is all about, and today we're exploring the dark side of the most powerful of them all, the Mage. As explored in the previous video, the Mage at the end of a long and epic life is invited on one last adventure. But this time they are not there to vanquish the enemy, but to mentor whoever will be taking on that task. Up against the archetypal antagonists of evil and human weakness, the Mage's chief challenge is one of humility, morality, and rising above the ego. In order to succeed in their mission and have lived a good life, the Mage must prove themselves capable as a mentor that inspires and empowers but doesn't meddle, control, or manipulate, even when they can see that those they love are headed for heartbreak, pain, death, or worse, corruption by the forces of evil themselves. And, as always, this is not a given. If the Mage refuses their call to mentorship and/or succumbs to the evil urges within themselves, then they will tragically fall at the final hurdle and take on one of their shadow roles. Therefore, not going out as a saint who gets to meet the divine in the yonder world, but either as a greedy, hoarding miser at the passive end of the continuum, or as the devastating Dark Adept at the aggressive end, the nastiest, lowest, and darkest of all the archetypes we're discussing in this series. But we'll get to that one in a moment. First, the Miser, a passive hoarding of the wisdom, knowledge, and other resources gleaned over the Mage's long life. Think Ebenezer Scrooge at the beginning of A Christmas Carol. Reclusive and selfish, the miser is unable to let go. Instead, they try to take what they have, in their opinion rightly earned over the course of their life, to the yonder world of death. The miser has failed to overcome the entitlement, victim mindset, and bitterness that runs as if through a poisoned vein along the entirety of the chain of archetypal antagonists we've been exploring. And it's at its most pronounced here in the third act. In the previous arc, the only marginally less powerful shadow wielder came about as a result of the seer's inability to accept the loss of their temporarily powerful sovereign self. And here in the Mage's arc, due to their inability to accept their own mortality and imminent end, the miser, consumed by this bitterness, directs their anger out into the world, punishing everyone by withholding their potentially life-giving knowledge, wisdom, and other valuable resources. The miser essentially refuses to integrate the difficult truth of this third act, that death itself is not to be feared but embraced, that they will die just like everyone else, and that's okay. And because of this refusal, they now appear to be bartering with death, attempting to buy it off. Of course, we all know this isn't possible, and so it's not going to end well for the miser, unless they change their ways. If they don't, the miser is a sad end indeed. One that Mage character Yoda explicitly warns against in The Return of the Sith, when he tells Anakin Skywalker to train himself to let go of everything he fears to lose. If the miser manages this, they will be able to graduate to Mage and complete their final positive change arc, thus ending their life well. But this is no small challenge, not least because as well as the miser self living in the mage's psyche, there is also the Dark Adept, the mage's temptation to egoically turn their power against the kingdom, once again as a result of their unresolved bitterness. Here, instead of using their knowledge to further the quest, glory and happiness of others, they decide to use their great strength in one last selfish push for greatness, determined to accumulate as much power as possible before going out with a thunderclap of a bang. The Dark Adept is a megalomaniacal oppressor who has the power to rule but also obscenely manipulate others via their deep understanding of reality. Think Saruman the White in Lord of the Rings. This shadow archetype is the ultimate villain, evil personified. That is, human weakness personified as a horribly powerful human being, which beautifully illustrates the paradox at play here, that when it comes to morality, weakness and power are often one in the same. So how do we avoid the clutches of the miser and the Dark Adept? As with all of these journeys, it's a case of fully integrating the empowering truth, which for the mage's journey is this: true love is transcendent and allows life to unfold. The mage's quiet but poignant inner battle with both the miser and the Dark Adept, as well as their own human weakness and ego temptations, serves as a reminder that we all have the potential to do great evil, or great good. And that very often the difference is whether or not we operate from a place of love, acceptance and trust, or whether we allow the shadow forces of greed, fear and anger to lead the way. Or, in other more famous words, that fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. And that concludes our adventure through the magical world of archetypal character arcs. As always, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and I really hope that you have found this helpful, inspiring, or at least interesting. Finally, if you'd like to take an epic journey through a magical world in the name of personal growth and wellness, then you can download Betwixt, the mental health game, which is available on the iOS App Store and Google Play.